John Wooden is one of the most successful basketball coaches ever, but he hardly ever talked about winning. So, what did he talk about? He talked about the Pyramid of Success. And that's the book that we're going to use to do a deep dive on 5 habits, 5 instincts, 5 personality traits that we can build in order to be successful in whatever our goal is. It just so happens to be on this channel to learn English. So you're with Gather. Gather English is a Christian ministry that helps people learn English through relationships. We don't focus on grammar. We don't focus on rules. We focus on friendships, which happens to be one of the building blocks of John Wooden. So we just put up a series of shorts, and you can look at those as well, that have 15 building blocks. And the idea is to listen. They're all just 1 minute each. Listen and then write a comment. And in those little practices of building community, listening and writing or speaking, you have the ability to grow your level of English. And so using today, what we're going to do is we're going to have 5 building blocks. I will put them in chapters on the video so that you could do 1 building block per day and practice listening Monday through Friday on your commute or whatever. And in that, it'll be able to listen to a native speaker and then also kind of compound 2 interests that we have. One, to learn English, but then also to learn how to do life better. And so today we're going to be talking about hard work. We're going to be talking about enthusiasm, friendship, initiative, and team spirit. And so we'll try to make each one of these concepts very concrete in our brain so that we can remember the terms better, the vocabulary, and then also have an opportunity to write your own stories if you want in the comments. But at the very bottom of the pyramid for John Wooden, he has the characteristic of hard work. He uses Proverbs from the Bible that says, "In all hard work there is profit, but mere talk leads to being poor." And so that's a biblical proverb that John Wooden was a Christian, and he wanted to use those proverbs and those verses to build his life. And he happened to be a basketball coach. So that was the arena, that was the field, that was the ability to live these verses out. And he said that in the book, he said that he learned hard work on a farm. And so that made me think of my first job, which it wasn't actually a job, but it was the first thing I remember getting paid for. And I had to go and dig a ditch in the back of a yard of one of my neighbor's houses. He lived on a hill, and so when it rained, the rain would fall and come into his house. So he needed to dig a ditch where the rain would stop before it entered into his house. And I did not know my neighbor, but my mom was talking to him, and she volunteered me to dig the ditch. It took me 2 weeks of every day going with a shovel and a pick and just digging and digging and digging. And he ended up paying me. I don't think it was a good hourly rate, but that's okay. It was good. It was good experience for, I think I was 11 years old at the time. But the digging was so difficult. And I remember my hands hurting. I remember my muscles being sore. And I remember how difficult it was to dig that ditch. So just as John Wooden learned hard work on a farm, I think I learned hard work from digging a ditch. I wonder how you learned hard work. Did you have a first job? Was it in a restaurant? That was probably my first actual job, was in a restaurant. And restaurants are really hard work. They're fast-paced. You have to think about a lot of things all at the same time, and you're taking care of people. And sometimes people aren't easy to take care of. But hard work is always something that will help us to succeed. No matter what we do, we could be learning English, we could be trying to get a better job or get good grades in our university. All of them will be made possible if we have hard work and do that work every single day. If we do that, it makes it possible. If we don't do that, we'll never achieve our goals. All right. The building block number 2 that John Wooden uses is enthusiasm. So when we have hard work and it's matched with enthusiasm, something special happens. John Wooden tells a story about when he moved to LA. He was already a coach in Indiana, and he had a really good team. But when he moved to LA, he went to his gym, with a basketball gym, and it wasn't as good as his basketball gym in Indiana. He watched his players play, and the players were not as good as the players that were in Indiana. And he also thought about the city. And he was from a farm in Indiana, but LA was a big city. And so everything was different, and it wasn't as good as it was in Indiana. So John Wooden had to make a choice. Was he going to show up and be enthusiastic about the job that he said he would do? Or is he going to have a bad attitude? I'm trying to think of what is the opposite of being enthusiastic. And I think it's complaining. I think somebody that is complaining about their situation rather than being enthusiastic about improving their situation is the opposite of enthusiasm. A verse in the Bible, another proverb says, "Do not be lazy, but serve the Lord enthusiastically." Notice what the verse doesn't say. The verse doesn't say to serve the Lord when you feel like it. It says it's a command to bring energy to the moment in serving the Lord with enthusiasm. Now, again, John Wooden was a Christian, and so he took this verse and he wanted to apply it to his life. And so he applied it to being a basketball coach. And he wanted to coach those kids as best as he could with enthusiasm. I'm trying to think of something that I've done with enthusiasm, but also without enthusiasm in my life. And actually, I speak Spanish. We live in South America. And I actually think there's 2 times in my life that I tried to learn Spanish. One was in high school. I failed miserably. The other was in an institute in Puebla, Mexico. And I showed up every day with enthusiasm there. But what was the difference? The difference wasn't in the teachers. I had a great teacher in high school. Trying to remember her name, Mrs. Harper, I think. But she was a great teacher. Looking back on it, actually, when I did learn Spanish, I remembered I excelled at some of the classes because I remember what Mrs. Harper taught me so many years before. But then when I was in the institute, the teachers were good, but what changed was my internal motivation that I was going to apply myself with enthusiasm because I wanted to learn how to communicate in Spanish. And so our enthusiasm, the way that we think about our goal, has all the difference in the world. All right, number 3 is friendship. Now, this one's kind of interesting, and it's actually really close to my heart in the way that we teach English at Gather, because language is all about shared culture. It's something that we build together. One of the reasons I did not learn Spanish in high school is because I didn't have any friends that spoke Spanish. but I do have friends that speak Spanish now. So it forces me to want to learn their language. And so we've got friendship as a core building block, especially for the reason to learn another language. And so we don't focus on grammar at Gather. We actually focus on building small habits that cause us to know one another in order to continue talking in that language. And sure, we're going to make a ton of mistakes, but if we have friendships, we will want to talk to them, and then we will want to use a shared language. That's our entire philosophy here at Gather. But he's talking about any goal, not just learning a language. He's talking about any goal. And this is one of my favorite building blocks of the whole pyramid because it helps us so much. And for me, I like to picture two runners training for this exact same race. One runner trains alone. I actually had an experience like this in high school. I was on the basketball team and I had to run a mile for conditioning, but I didn't have anybody else to run it with me. I was gasping for air. It was so difficult to run that mile because I ran it alone. I think I was sick or maybe out of town when I had the first, or when everybody else ran the mile. And so I had to run it alone. I remember gasping for air. It was so bad, actually, that my coach asked me if I was okay, because when I was on the other side of the field, he could hear me gasping for air so loudly. As it was bad. But then I have another, and my time was bad as well. I think I ran like a 7.5-minute mile, which our goal at that time was a 6-minute mile. So I was very far off pace. But then I also remember running a mile in college when I was playing basketball there. And our goal was 5 minutes and 57 seconds for my position. And we ran with everybody else. And I specifically chose to run with one of our fastest players because I knew I wouldn't be able to do it alone. And we ran the mile, and I wasn't in better condition, but that encouragement of doing it together caused me to go faster. And I think I didn't make the 5 minute and 57 minute mile, but I did make a faster time. I think I was at like 6 minutes and 3 seconds. And that was one of my best miles ever. And so I was really excited about that, even though I failed and had to run more because of it. And so there's an African proverb that talks about we can go fast alone, but we can go far together. And if we apply that in language learning or whatever goal we have for life, we can recognize that it's better to build relationships around a shared vision than it is just to try to do it all ourselves and to do the best that we can by ourselves. Friendship is a value in life. The fourth value is initiative. You could also think about it as being intentional. Initiative is a block that honestly most people skip because they kind of either don't have a purpose or don't have a vision that guides their life. Now, again, John Wooden wrote his book based on a purpose and a vision to follow Jesus for his life. That gave him meaning. It gave him meaning as a husband. It gave him meaning as a coach. It gave him meaning as a friend and as a teacher. Everything he did, he built it based on that initiative. How can I be the best follower of Jesus that I can be? And so that was what he kept going back with. And so because he had that purpose, he wanted to keep trying new things in his life. It's why he made the move from Indiana to LA. It's why he remained loyal and faithful to his wife. It's why he wanted to teach others how to have a meaningful life and to achieve their goals. But here's the math that not a lot of people focus on that John Wooden is really good at. He says that if you try, you're going to experience more failure than people that don't try. And oftentimes, that can kind of trip us up if we don't think about it. Because if we try and then we fail, we may feel like a failure. But that's not the idea. The idea is that the people that try more, because we're trying, it's going to equal more failures. It's going to equal more times that we do not succeed. But it's the idea of failing forward, of getting better. And that's where practice and some of these other building blocks come into play. But we have to learn and we have to try and then we have to fail. And then as we keep trying, we will find that success. Because none of us are perfect and everybody is going to make mistakes when we do things. Now, if we apply that to English or any language that we're learning, we're going to make mistakes in English. A lot of people talk about how kids learn language better than adults. And I think that is true, but I don't think it's true for the reason people think. A lot of people think it's just because they're learning, they're better at learning. But I don't think that they're naturally better at learning. I think they're naturally more fearless to make mistakes than adults. So when they are learning a language, they're practicing, they're throwing ideas out, they're on a playground, the exact same thing they do with toys in a sandbox, where the toys are imaginary and they're playing and they're enjoying the time and creating stories with the toys. They're doing all that with language. But then as adults, we try to make it really difficult and rigid, and our success is bound up on it. And so we don't feel the freedom to play with the language. We don't feel the freedom to make mistakes with the language. But the more we try, the more we're going to fail. And so it's important to understand that making mistakes is not a failing identity. Making mistakes is initiative that actually is a building block for future success. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about today is team spirit. And this kind of goes along with friendship, but it has more to do with the idea that you have something that somebody else needs, and they have something that you need. And so if we don't do it as a part of a team, we're not going to be able to do it to the best of our ability. A great illustration actually comes from the Bible when it talks about the church as a body of people. And a body, so a body's got hands, it has a mouth, it has eyes, ears, to be able to do things with the body. And the writer Paul talks about how it's silly to think about a hand complaining that it's not an eye. Because if everything was an eye, how would we be able to pick anything up? Or vice versa, if I'm a nose and I'm complaining that I'm not an ear, how would we be able to hear anything or smell anything if everything was the same? And that illustration is a great illustration for having a team spirit in your life. It can be a part of your job or for a goal like learning language. My wife and I are very different when it comes to learning language. She loves the rules of the language and she gets better at practicing them. I do not. And so we're very different in that. But you know what? I'm actually getting better with recognizing my mistakes when it comes to the gender of nouns in Spanish, mixing up the feminine and masculine words. I'm getting better because she notices it very naturally. So she's a gift that helps me get better in my Spanish. But then also, there are some things that, because I teach a lot in Spanish, There's some things that I kind of flow at a little better when I'm just kind of talking. So like sometimes when Lindsay's talking, her answers are shorter than mine, mainly because I just talk a lot. But Lindsay, that's something that I can help and give her as we make each other better. And so having a team spirit is looking at how people can be better because we're helping them, and then vice versa, people, or we're getting better because people are helping us. So that Bible verse says, if one part suffers, all hurt together. And if one part is honored, all are glad because we are all one. And that is true of any team that we are on in our life. All right, so here's the pyramid in one sentence. Work hard, bring energy, take risks, and do it with people. All of those things are going to help you in your journey to learn English. All right, so this is the very first one, right? But I want to know, what book of leadership or community or friendship do you want to hear about from an English speaker to help you listen? Or what topic of conversation would you love to talk about in this new series that we're doing at Gather? Hope you guys are great. Look forward to building this community together with you.